You call, we haul.
If you're thinking I'm a certified son of a gun, haul a whole lot of country in my old half-ton. Work like a dog till the work gets done. Get the beer out my bag if you ain't got none. If you think I got a bad case of good old boy, well, you're damn right, buddy, that's a Big 10-4.
Hey, good morning, everyone. We're here at day number 2 of the World Ag Expo again with the Cain Trucking 10-4 podcast. And our special guest today is we've got CHP, California Highway Patrol, with us. We got Officer Jeff Dunn and Sean Langford, and then Officer
Jason Schoenhoven.
Jason Shoto?
Schoenhoven.
Schoenhoven. Okay, well, that's a different one right
That's
there.
a tongue twister.
So, yeah, just a little bit. I thought Marcellus was bad, but that's the first that you almost got me on that one.
Yeah.
So everybody with CHP in here today, these 3 guys here. So we're going to kind of go over a few things, and maybe we're going to learn. I know we're going to learn something for sure, because everybody's got questions on a lot of things, right? ELD is a big one for the trucking industry this year.
Yep.
California trucks, that's a big one there. So why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves, kind of tell us a little bit about yourselves. I know there's a lot of history or a little history, but go for it, Sean.
My name's Officer Sean Langford. I've been with the California Highway Patrol for 14 years. Been in the unit for 2 years. Started off in East Los Angeles, where I worked 3 years. Went to Newhall, and then from Newhall to Fresno to Visalia, and then ultimately ended up in a commercial truck. I have experience driving commercial vehicles prior to becoming an officer, and the reason why I became an officer is because I was tired of being told I had to do things I knew I shouldn't be doing. So I figured, what could I do to, combat that? And here I am.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I'm the Visalia Mobile Road Enforcement Officer, and I'm based out of the Visalia office on Noble Avenue.
Perfect.
All right.
Jeff?
Well, yeah. Good morning. Jeff Dunn, Commercial Officer with the Highway Patrol. I'm in my 28th year with the department, and I've been doing commercial since 2009. And when I got in the truck, I had a background in commercial in the respect that I do have my commercial license, still have a valid CDL today. Worked for a company in Visalia and was able to obtain it then. And it's one of those things where you never know if you're going to need a commercial license.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we find a lot of people that realize the hard way, don't understand what the rules are. And so sometimes it's easier to keep it than to, obtain it again. So I started out in Coalinga on the I-5. So my exposure to commercial activity was immediate from this side. So in 2000, I transferred over to the Hanford area. In 2009, I joined the commercial unit. My home area, host area is Hanford, where all out of the our bosses are actually supervisors are out of Fresno, but we have 2 sectors. One is a north sector and a south sector. Sean and myself are out of the south sector, and then that's from Fresno to Fort Tejon. And then we have a north sector that's from Madera North up to Modesto. So there's quite a large geographic area that we do cover. So one of the things that I got to do early on in my career, a lot of people that when I came in were retiring out. And so was able to get some bunch of training. And one of the things, and that's why we're here today, really is to promote the Commercial Industry Education Program. It's a free service that we provide statewide. The 3 of us, unfortunately, don't get to go statewide, especially in July over to the coast, right? However, we have people like Jason, who's the main officer that oversees the program. Sean and I are just associates, and we go to companies that request us. We have a variety of topics, and so glad that we were able to make that connection with you, Paul, and appreciate you having us on.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys being able to make it here and talk about it. Jason, tell us a little bit about your history.
So my name is Jason Schoenhoven. I grew up in Madera County on an almond farm, so I have an ag background.
Perfect.
I've been on the department for 16 years. Like Sean here, I started out in LA, in downtown LA. Spent a year and a half there, tried to work my way back to the valley, but couldn't get quite to the valley immediately. So I worked over in Gilroy area for about a year. And then from that point, I transferred to the Merced CHP office, where I spent the last 14 years. working Highway 99 there. I started into some commercial vehicle enforcement a handful of years ago, 5-6 years ago. Got some of the training, and just this past fall, I was able to get into the commercial vehicle unit that Jeff and Sean are in. I'm based out of Fresno, and like Jeff mentioned, I'm the Commercial Industry Education Program Officer. There, like Jeff said, I handle our whole division from Modesto down to Fort Tejon. And there are 7 other officers statewide that do exactly what I do for the Valley. So we have people like myself spread out throughout the entire state.
Only 7 of you guys, the whole state. You got
So there's 8 total, 7 in addition to myself. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. You guys got to cover a lot of ground.
We do. Yeah.
You know, that's amazing right there. You know, and it's kind of a, you know, for those carriers out there that don't know, you know, for Cain Trucking, you know, we kind of partnered up here with CHP, you know, Jeff and Sean here, and you know, we used to do our safety meetings with a safety guy, you know, but we always talked about a lot of other things besides what pertains to trucking and what we do, you know, and so when we partnered up with you guys, you know, they are now coming out and doing our safety meetings, you know, and if we got questions, we'll do some meetings on that scenario too to educate everybody, the drivers, you know, and all that, and it is all free, you know, that you guys are providing that service to carriers, for those of you that don't know. And I think it's super important, you know, and if you got drivers that are terrified of CHP, there's no reason to be terrified, you know. I mean, if they're doing their pre-trips and they know their truck and doing everything like supposed to be doing, you know, they're doing a job. Sometimes they see things that we don't see, but the drivers don't need to be terrified of the deal, you know. So I think it's pretty good because we had some guys who are a little bit nervous. I'm not really sure why, you know, but they're nervous. And by doing these share safety meetings and all that, it's kind of getting everybody a little bit more relaxed and understand we're all people, right? I mean, it don't matter what we're doing. We all got jobs to do. And why not do it the best you can and be in the know, you know, to be educated on this sort of stuff. So it's been a really good relationship, I think, as far as that goes with you guys. And I appreciate you guys coming out and doing that for us when we do those deals. You know, it's been pretty good. So, yeah.
And that is one of the things that we do try to promote is that we can write a bunch of tickets, and that doesn't really solve a lot of problems, right?
Yeah.
So today, and is typical, you know, with the IEP program, it's education, right? We want to give good information. So if you're listening to the XM Trucker channel or you're looking on the internet, you know, those may be sources of information, but at the same time, it might not pertain to you. We could have 2 identical trucks similar to what we have right behind you, Paul, and depending on where it's going, it may require certain things and a little bit different, right? And so that is one of the new things for this year. The ELD, right, came to California finally for the California driver. Kind of a little bit not easy to explain, I guess, but for a real zoomed out overview is if you're going to be over 150 air miles from your terminal on a regular basis, then you need to have an ELD. ELDs do provide some other things for administrative as well as mechanical benefits, and maybe some type of camera stuff, but that's really for the industry, for the company, not so much for us, on our side, for the enforcement side.
Yeah.
The compliance now basically is that like the interstate driver, right? ELDs likely for those trips that are outside that 150-mile radius, you need to have that ELD. We do have a few carve-outs for specific industries, that being cattle, livestock, bees, insect, that they will not have to comply with the ELD requirement. Ultimately, kind of the background on ELDs is really from the safety standpoint, preventing drivers from driving sleepy fatigue.
Yeah.
And we do a presentation about distracted driving, but in that we also incorporate to talk about the drowsy driver. drowsy driver is equally as dangerous as a drunk driver, right? And there's a lot of information about DUI out there, and we've been, preaching that for many, many years, right? The prevention of that. But a person that is behind the wheel of a large vehicle, that falls asleep can be equally as dangerous. And so that's kind of some of the background why ELDs and people defeating, just like with regular logbooks, paper logs, right?
Yeah.
Drivers are running multiple books sometimes, right? We stumble across that inadvertently, right? Oh, officer, I'm sorry, I gave you the wrong book. This is the one I really meant to give you, right? And so not that long ago, pulled a driver over. There was a driver and a co-driver. And so I looked at their ELD and I was like, who is this individual that shows logged in? They're like, oh, we just dropped that guy off, about 100 miles back.
The ghost driver.
The ghost driver, right? And so there are other ways to defeat the ELD, logging in on somebody else's account, right?
Huh.
So, there's always going to be a way, right? And when we were talking about also like how many there are of us, one of the things that I like to also impart is that you have a pretty good chance of avoiding us, right? There's not that many commercial officers. Yes, there's other officers out there, but one of the things that really is kind of equalizer is the fact that if you get involved in a collision, a lot of this stuff we're going to find out. You may be able to fool us roadside if it was for a simple mechanical or a moving violation, and we're just like, okay, look at it real at the face value and push you on down the road. But when a commercial vehicle gets into a collision, that's when things get really magnified. And so, just have that in mind. We don't always show up. We only can go to the ones obviously that we know about and or requested from time to time from the area.
Sure.
But, that's when things will be noticed on a terminal, or where we have our counterparts, the motor carriers that are in white vans that come and do terminal inspections, and we start referencing other points of information to validate that logbook.
Yeah. That's interesting. Good information. So 150 air miles is what it is.
Yeah.
So I stand correct. I was thinking it was 100 miles on that part, but
So
150
that is a little bit of the confusion, right? So the 100 air miles is still a thing, right?
Uh-huh.
And so the short haul or the local driver, we have 5 things, and the first one referenced is the 100 air miles. As long as we stay within the 100 air miles, we're good. 12 hours, right? 12 hours working. If I work more than 12, that's fine. I'm just going to have a logbook, right? I got to return to my terminal from where I started within the 12 hours, right? And I got to have 10 hours off in between work periods. As long as I do those 4 things, the last one is the time card. I got to write down my time some way.
Yep.
Time card or logbook. And the
Under the 100 miles or
under the 100, right?
Yep.
And so you may have an operation that never goes outside of those parameters, and great. We encourage you to use those exemptions, i.e., in this case, the time card exemption or short haul exemption. But knowing how to answer those questions when we ask you for information is equally important for the driver.
Sure.
Not to have the inspector or officer say, well, are you using this or not, right? And some officers don't necessarily go through all of those tests, right? And they're immediately, when the driver says, I don't have a logbook, they're like, oh, well, they're in violation, right?
Yeah.
So if you're a driver and you don't have a logbook, a follow-up question or follow-up to if they ask you and you say you don't have a logbook should be, I have a time card.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm a local driver.
I'm
I
a
stay
local
within
driver,
100
yeah.
air miles.
And knowing what
Okay.
those 5 things are,
Yep.
right? And,
Yep.
and making sure that you're within those parameters. If there's a carve out for your industry, right? Sometimes having that piece of paper or knowing where that section is and to educate, because not everybody knows everything, right? We have people that just started out in our program, the
Sure.
commercial side, right? We got people that have been in it for a while.
Yeah.
So, and different varying points in between.
Kind of a buffet. A whole
Yeah.
lot of different deals out there, different styles of trucks. I mean, car haulers and tankers, all kinds of deals as far as it goes. But
Yep.
so if you're a carrier and you run on both sides of it, right? You got some trucks that are running over the 150 and you got other trucks under the 100, and you can run ELDs on those trucks and then time
Yes.
card or log sheets on the other one. So you don't have to be all the way through on the whole fleet.
Yeah,
for the most part.
your truck can run 24/7.
Yep.
It's your driver, again, referencing back to the sleepy, fatigued,
Yep.
scenario. We want to make sure that that's not happening as much as possible.
Sure.
Right. So.
Well, and for the carrier, what I like to add is, so Jeff just touched on that local driver. If you stay under the 100 air miles, if you go over that but stay under the 150, then a paper logbook, AOBRD, and what's the third one, Jeff, that they can?
I'll look it up and then.
Yeah, or so a paper log and an AOBRD, or you can use the ELD. So you don't have to use the ELD if
All
you
the
stay
time.
under the 150. But if you go over that 150 on a regular basis, that's when you need that ELD all the time.
Talking
Yeah.
about the electronic logging software.
Yeah.
So there's also on FMCSA's website, there are approved ELDs. There's also non-approved. So we've had, like when they first came out, the feds have been using it since I think around 2016. So in interstate driver, when I talk about feds. So they have been having to use ELD since that time frame. And so what they basically now have, and initially there's only like two companies that were not compliant. All of a sudden, as the years have gone by, we've realized, okay, this is not a compliant device. And so if you're not sure where to go, go to the FMCSA, look in ELDs for a company, a provider that will suit your needs.
Yeah. Okay. Just like GPSs, you got some stuff that work pretty good, and other ones not. And
Correct. Yep.
now
Yeah.
with the electronic logs, I mean, you want to make sure
Yeah.
you're approved on that program for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
On that scenario. So, yeah, that's all good information right there. We all talked about it already once before, but at the same time, you're still kind of trying to grasp all this here and making sure everything's correct on all this here, which
Right.
pretty much everybody's all worried about it. But at the same time, the regulation's already been set in stone a long time ago, right? It's there. It's just now this year's going to hold the feet to the fire just a little bit more. It's not going to be so much the old school program, where you're going
Right.
through loopholes and different deals that
Yep.
everybody likes to do a little
Exactly.
bit, right?
Yep.
So, and you're right. Fatigue driving is just like being drunk, pretty much. I mean, you're going in there, and I mean, things can happen pretty quick for sure. And that's and there's a lot of traffic on the road nowadays. I mean, today compared to what it used to be.
Correct.
I mean, 99 is a major corridor anymore.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
It's,
And it used to be back in the day, like I worked out in I-5 and on graveyards, there'd be like traffic 5 minutes between, groups of traffic. Now it doesn't matter what time of day or night.
Yeah.
It's constantly busy out there.
It is.
99, similar.
5, yeah, it's amazing.
Doesn't matter.
So that's interesting. Sean, you got anything you'd like to touch
pretty
on a
much
little
touched
bit or so?
Touched on all that, all the information of ELDs. But
Yeah.
in the forum that we're in right now, this is what I enjoy doing. I'm sure Jeff does the same thing, because this is when the drivers aren't supposed to be scared, because we're dressing down.
Yeah.
This is the time for question and answers. When we make a roadside appointment with our red lights, that's not the time for questions. It's the time for answers for us.
Yeah.
And anything with the ELD, if you say it with conviction to us, we're going to take that as a sign of confidence for you guys, and we won't push the issue anymore.
Sure.
But you have to know that information. I mean, like Jeff said, there's officers that they're not going to ask you these questions, because they're going to expect you as a professional driver to be able to articulate to us what you guys have. Because we can sit there and ask you and baby you all day long, well, do you do this, and do you do that, and do you do this, and do you do that? But we don't have that kind of time on the side of the road.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So you're just increasing your chance of something
else happening.
going on there. Yeah. That's pretty scary.
Yeah.
And also one of the things too, we touched on, the sleepy driver and the rules of the road is another, right? And
Sure.
so making sure that people understand, when they can be in a certain lane, or where they can be, when it pertains to, looking out for being defensive driving. And through some of the major areas, you talk about vehicles that are coming on and off. We understand that not every highway or roadway is marked as such for commercial traffic to be other than in the slow lane. But those are some of the things that, we do look for. Also, when it talks about, you mentioned about what does a driver look for on their daily vehicle inspection report, where pre-trip, right? And documenting that pre-trip, being able to communicate to the company like, hey, it's been a couple of days. I have this tire that needs to get replaced, right?
Yep.
Having a way that the drivers can be able to communicate with the shop, and then it gets that taken care of. One of the other things that we do get requested, not only from carriers, but even like the dealers that are doing 90-day inspections, right? A lot of times a mechanic and an inspector kind of see things a little bit different, right?
Sure.
And so we do provide education a lot of times to the dealers or to people that are doing 90 days, because we've had an occasion around in this area where a vehicle just went through a 90-day inspection from a shop, and then they come through one of our inspections and are placed out of service, right? And then they're trying to figure out, like, hey, what happened, right? So sometimes educating your shop mechanics is equally as important as educating the driver, and for them to communicate, that information so that your truck on your time frame can get the repairs that are necessary, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot more expensive roadside or at a scale facility, right? At a scale facility, if you get placed out of service, you likely will not be allowed to move that truck from the scale without having those red tag items, out of service items,
Fixed.
corrected.
Yeah.
And I don't know what roadside mechanics are charging these days. And even if you sent your mechanic right here from Tulare
Still a
down to
cost.
Grapevine, it still costs you
It's still a
something, right?
cost,
And it's
yeah.
much more expensive than to take care of it at your shop here
That's
in
right.
Tulare.
Yep. No, that's a fact. And that's a good point too, because since we started the program with you guys, for our safety meetings and all that, and I got good feedback from everybody. A lot of guys are really happy with it. There's questions you can ask. I mean, sometimes some get a little crazy on stuff, right? I mean, it's
Sure,
just part of what
yeah.
it is.
Right.
But I got feedback from the mechanics too, and they're like, that was pretty good. I didn't know you had some of this stuff like this here, because that other guy never talked about none of this kind of stuff. So this is pretty good. It's like, that's awesome. So it's like, all right, this is working. So we're going to stay with this program, because that's a big thing, and that's true. You guys are doing your inspections at the scale house or side of the roads or whatever, and you're going to see a lot more than maybe like my shop would see on certain deals that happen maybe more often or not. And this is pretty good information right there. We got to think about that class too. That's a good one. I know we've done we've taken over some equipment a little bit, and we're going to go through and look at it because we want to make sure it's right. And it's like, so-and-so already did a 90-day inspection on it, so it should be good. But you guys, I know you're picky. Go ahead and just look at it. We start looking at it, it's like, oh my gosh, they charged for this 90-day? Because they said, we're finding all kinds of stuff here. It's like, there's no 90-day done on this piece of equipment, right? It kind of blows your mind a little bit. And I know for us, we spend a lot of time and money on the maintenance side, because you're right. It's cheaper to fix it in your own shop than it is at the scale house or broke down the side of the road, because now you got service call for that guy. There's time and money involved in that. You got the driver sitting there on the clock waiting,
Right.
or going to be out of service pretty quick because he's running close on time.
Right.
So now you got another driver on the way going down there too to swap out or whatever the case is. So it gets super expensive versus doing it in your shop, and that's a big thing. So trying to streamline things all the way across is a big deal. We kind of started a little bit for us, just talking on behalf of Cain Trucking, that, we've got paperwork there for drivers to fill out, give to the shop guy, the shop foreman, so that way we make sure we get all taken care of. And if it's something that's not getting taken care of, then I highly encourage drivers, hey, if it don't happen in a day or two, a couple days, let me know. You come and talk to me so that we can get it handled, because there's always a slip list, right? You got priority, stack of priority, all coming in at the same time. And there's always all these deals that's happening, right? And you're trying to get to all of them, but you don't have enough time in the day. But, some stuff is, yes, we need to take care of, but it's not a safety factor, right?
Right.
And then you got other ones that are. So it's some challenges
For sure.
for everybody on that stuff there.
Yeah.
But no, this is good information you guys got, and this is all a service that you guys provide for carriers. That's just to go out and educate and do this is. If the carrier's worried about having
all they really need to do is reach out to us and set up a time. The only real cost is to them in the respect of if they're to pay their drivers to sit to listen to talk to us.
Sure.
However much time you allow, we'll tailor make that presentation. Typically, though, our presentations are about an hour per topic. And that allows for questions and dialogue. We do appreciate when drivers are engaged and ask specific questions. And we tell them all the time, like, hey, we're in your house. Some of you are probably more bold than others, right? And so
there's always that.
Right. And so that question that you have and you're not afraid to ask may be actually really legitimate, and someone else is afraid to ask it, but they have the same question, right?
Sure.
And so we just want to make sure that we make the presentation to their needs. There's not a one size that fits all. And like you have different types of trailers, right? So you have a tank division, you have a commodities division. And so, everything's just a little bit different, right?
Yep.
We get to see a lot of different configurations, so our exposure is probably better than most.
Sure.
And being that we obviously do inspections on a regular basis, and we kind of get to know certain vehicles and the problems or unique situations for certain types of manufacturers, is all a little bit different. So it's, keeps us on our toes too.
Yeah, it's a whole
And
buffet.
when I inspect something, that doesn't mean that after I did, that Jason doesn't come and see something that I potentially missed, or Sean, right? So the more eyes that are looking at these vehicles, right, because they're mechanical, right, and they have a span of use, and sometimes it's short, and sometimes it's forever.
Yeah.
But,
Well, in today's world with all these newer equipment, everybody's trying to figure out how to build them cheaper or save money or whatever. So
Okay, cost somewhere.
Got cost
Yeah.
somewhere, materials.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't hold up like the older trucks like it used to be, So you're constantly changing parts all the time. Sensors, whether it's your computer programs, the whole nightmare of things, But no, it's been really good as far as it goes. So if a person wanted to reach out to you guys, how do they get a hold of you? Do they call you, Jeff, or Sean, or Jason?
Initially, we're going to defer to Jason because he's kind of the coordinator. He'll kind of, based off of geographic location to the carrier, will kind of like, if he can't handle it, then he'll send myself or Sean. Or sometimes, you get 2 for 1, right?
Yeah.
Or 3 for 1 right
Yeah.
now in
Well,
the
that's okay.
respect where we have new people that are in the program. We want to give them an opportunity because some of us are not going to be around forever. And moving
Well,
on.
you got at least
So-
another 30 years to go, don't you, Jeff? I mean, come on.
I appreciate that. So, yeah, but Jason, do you want to give them how they can reach out to you?
Yeah, so our office phone number is area code 559-453-3100. And that's my office out of Fresno. That's the main line in. They can ask for the Commercial Industry Education Program Officer or Officer Jason Schoenhoven. And anybody that would call in, they'll get transferred to my phone. If I'm not there, they can leave a voicemail, and I'll get back to them within a couple of days. I'm not always there. I may be there only once a week, but I may be there also 4 or 5 times a week. It just depends if I'm out putting on presentations. Like we said earlier, I go from Modesto down to the Grapevine, so I may not be in the office hardly at all one week, and maybe in there every day the next week. So it all depends.
That's awesome. Okay. No, that's good. And just a quick recap a little bit, sort of. I mean, just more of a question, I guess it would be. But when you're talking about you're in your house and all that type of deal, right? So guys shouldn't be afraid because you're neutral ground. You're at that time, right? So if you got some question, whether it's off the wall or you probably know it's wrong, but you're not for sure. But I mean, that's the time to ask those questions because you're neutral ground. It's not you're going to get cited for asking a question like that or nothing like that. But when you're on the road, of course, that's a different deal. You're doing your job out there, and it's a safety thing across the board too, is right. So what do you think on that?
For sure. And, obviously we're on the education hat when we're with you.
Yep.
And in this forum right here, when we're out on the street, it's a little bit more business, right?
Sure.
And we try to keep it professional, right?
Yep.
And realize that not everybody sees eye to eye. Sometimes we have to agree to disagree, right?
Yep.
And
For
there's
sure.
a process for that. And so, anyway, but they basically, we do try, when we do our presentations, we do try to dress down a little formal like we are now. Sometimes we do have to show up in uniform because we are working a regular shift. Myself and Sean, we do operate the commercial trucks, or the DOT truck as the industry refers to us as.
Yeah.
And so that is the mobile scale, right? And
Yep.
so there is a lot of vehicles, commercial operations that don't go further south than Lowell Road on I-5, don't go further north than the 152 on I-5, and not much further than Chowchilla and avoid Santanella. So those are the scales we have in our division. Again, we have 8 divisions. We're one of 8. There's obviously scales everywhere. So a driver or a carrier who does not go to these scales, that's in a mobile floor mat. That's what our trucks do.
Yeah, perfect.
We have everything in the back that we would need to mimic, just in a mobile form, a scale.
Yeah, that'll work. So perfect. I appreciate you guys coming out here today. And then if anybody's got questions, or want to reach out to these guys, Jason put it on there already. You want to just go ahead and repeat that phone number one more time to get a hold of you?
I'll give the phone number. So I know we've been talking about the education program, but if you have any questions, just, if it's only a single question, feel free to reach out to us. We do just field phone calls and answer questions over the phone. If you would not like, don't have the time or the ability to have us come out and put on a presentation. One other thing I'd like to add for these presentations, we have our own equipment as far as the computers, a projector, a screen to where we can put on some sort of a slideshow or videos. If you have a TV, then we can plug right into that in like your break room or something like that. So we come fully prepared to put on these types of presentations in whatever kind of location that you have available to you. It could be out in your driveway. It could be in your shop. It could be in like I said, a break room or a meeting room, anything like that. We're very accommodating. Like Jeff said, we come in this type of uniform, so it's very informal. We're not there in that enforcement aspect. So don't think that by calling us and having us come out that we're going to find all kinds of stuff wrong and put you out of service or anything like that. It's just to help you guys make the right decisions and operate safely up and down the highways. So that phone number one more time is area code 559-453-3100.
Perfect. Well, really appreciate you guys coming out. And of course, if anybody's got questions or want to reach out to Cain Trucking, you can always send us an email, or mine's paul@caintrucking.com, or you can check out our website at caintruckinginc.com. And if you got questions, I'll help out too if you need to or whatnot. But otherwise, you get a hold of these guys. And again, it's a real good program to be involved with as well. And you get a lot of feedback, and your drivers appreciate it too. It's all about safety. And today's world, it's a big thing. I mean, it's bigger now than I think it has been over the years. It's a lot of traffic on the road. So.
Well, let me touch on that real quick, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
The safety score, right? So back 2010 is kind of when the CVSA got on board. Then in 16, California kind of was coming on board with the feds. So a lot of carriers don't even realize this in some cases because they, like, I never leave California. I'm an intra-state driver. Yeah. Everyone now has a DOT number. Every inspection that you as a carrier or a driver get from a commercial aspect goes against the company's safety score, right? And one of the things that companies are really aware of now more than ever because of this program is that safety score is tied to your insurance premiums in many cases, right? Yep. And so whether or not it costs maybe an additional 5 or 10%, right? For the average person that has a car or light truck, that means nothing, right? That's just like $20, $100 at the most, right? Yeah. For you, at 10 to 5%, we're talking thousands potentially, just depending on your fleet, right? So that's one of the things that a lot of carriers don't necessarily think of sometimes until they get that renewal notice and they wonder why it jumped, in premium. And so that's kind of some of the things that we can at least, give to the company, like, hey, be aware that every inspection, any violation, even if you're not cited, that shows up on that safety or on that inspection is worth safety points. Those points are kind of a myth, and they don't really let us know exactly what they're worth, but an arbitrary number of 5. Let's say you had a side marker light out and the officer just said, hey, driver, you have this side marker light out, get it fixed at the next time you go to the shop, right? Okay, yes, we'll do. And but they put that on there, and that lighting violation shows up. The first year, it's triple the point. So if it's a 5 point, it's worth 15 points against the company's safety score. Wow. The second year, it's worth 10. And then the third year, it's the face value of 5. The fourth year, it goes down. So one driver can make or break a company. If
pretty quick.
They are not, scrutinized, right? And sure. The safety officer doesn't see these inspections, and sometimes, a driver, doesn't say anything, right? And so from the safety coordinator position, right, keeping an eye on that safety score, why it jumped, and looking for these inspections and communicating like, hey, we just need to know as a company so that we can make sure that this doesn't happen again.
Sure. And the more inspections you go through and pass, the better it is too for a carrier,
so
right?
if you have clean inspections, that's obviously the best.
The best,
right? And if you have pre-pass or drive-wise, some of these subscriptions, and you get the green light to go past the scale, you get X amount of free. I don't know what it is. That's not anything that we, as a department, have really information on that, because it's a private contract between them and the carrier. But we do have those transponders that let us know if that vehicle was supposed to have pulled in. If you get a green light, you keep on going. But you get X amount of green lights before you start getting a red. Doesn't mean that you're going to get pulled in, right? So if it's just a driver going in through the scale and across the scale head, they don't always get inspected, right? They don't always get a red light. If there's something wrong that the officer sees, then they'll tell them to circle around to whatever bay for inspection. But so.
No, you're right. I mean, insurance is a big thing right now everything's a big thing, but the insurance is cracking down on a lot of stuff, and boy, they want to nail you for every little thing they can. I mean, we just went through our insurance, meeting with those guys there, and they look at those scores and see where you're at, and well, I guess we need to upgrade ours, because I was only showing 19 units versus 50, so we need to get that, because it would have made our score look a little bit better. We're actually still below average, so we're good as far as it goes, but it's like, it's one of those things, you're blowing and going through the years, whatever the case may be, and you kind of forget to update that, but they look at that, and it makes a big difference as well too. So if you think insurance is not looking at those deals, think again, because they're looking at all of it and your whole history of accidents and the whole deal. And in California, insurance is they've gone up a lot. So the safer you are, the better score you got, the better rate you're gonna get versus what it could be. And I've heard of some numbers out there that I don't know how some carriers are even operating for the cost of just insurance alone that they want to charge on those deals. So, I'm glad you brought that up. That's a good points there.
Yeah, and again, one of the things that we talk about in these presentations is that there's not as many of us looking for you, but the equalizer is the chance of being involved in a collision and or insurance renewal.
Sure. Right on. Well, I think we're all good. Anybody else got anything to... I mean, we can sit here all day and talk about all kinds of stuff. And we might solve some problems in the world or so. I don't know, but we got a long ways to go on that part. But Sean, you all good there? No,
Good, sir.
Perfect.
Thank you for
Jeff
having
did
me.
a lot of talking. You just took care of the whole.
That's fine with
covered
me.
a lot of areas, and Jason here. So I mean, this is awesome. You guys did pretty good. I appreciate it coming out here with us.
Absolutely.
So
Thank you
Thanks
for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. Thanks again. And then if you guys got questions, reach out, and you guys will take care of you. So we're all set. You call, we haul. Boop boop. We're out.
You're damn right, buddy, that's a big 10-4.